Superman, arguably the biggest character of all time, is coming back to the big screen once again. In this video, we are in part 2 of our 4-part series where we break down Superman on film and his legacy. Before we get into James Gunn's new DC universe and David Corenswet suits up as Superman for the very first time. In the previous video, if you missed it, don't worry, it's linked down in the description and it's in the little title card above me. We talked about Superman the movie and Christopher Reeve and the Richard Donner films and how important they are to this character's history. In this video, we're going to be talking about Superman Returns and Bryan Singer's film, and how it might be lost to time, and Brandon Routh's performance, as great as it is forever going to be in the shadow of Christopher Reeve. So the Chat After Crew gets into that in this video, and next week we're going to talk Man of Steel. But until then, here's Superman Returns.
As we move on Superman on film, we definitely have to talk about the safe Superman. And I want to call him the safe Superman because it learned... I think this is the perfect example of what you were saying, Mike. The Christopher Reeve impossible perfection of interpretation. Because when you get to Brandon Routh's take on the character, when you get to the Brandon Routh Superman Returns, I consider him the safe Superman because they were just trying to replicate the magic of Reeve's portrayal. And I think this is where we start seeing a downturn, because I'm going to be honest, I truly enjoy Superman Returns. In a bubble, like, I love that movie. Like, I love the set pieces. I enjoy Brandon Routh as a character. I have issues with a lot of things, but I'm not here to tell you that it's a horrible Superman film. I just think that it wasn't the Superman film that we needed at that point in time. And it wasn't, and it learned the wrong lessons from the original version that we got with Reeve. Because not only do we have an actor that is technically being forced to mimic to a degree, to the point that they're giving him the same lines as Reeve's portrayal, where he has to literally say certain lines verbatim like Reeves, just in different scenarios. You can kind of sense that Routh really is struggling to find his voice within the character, which is why, for me, I'm actually very happy that we got to see Routh reprise Superman in the Crisis of Infinite Earths event in the Arrowverse, because that is the first time that I see Routh in the Superman suit and be like, okay, that's Brandon Routh Superman. Like, I was able to distinctly see him make it his own, but he was not able to achieve that in this movie because he's trying to emulate the Reeve interpretation, but then also all the other characters are kind of built trying to emulate their versions from ages ago, and that's where it falls apart, because not only are we trying to emulate something that was emulating something from the 30s and 40s, we're failing at emulating what was presented in the 70s in that original series of movies. And I think that just did harm to the character on film. So it was too safe and too risky in certain things, and that's why I think this movie suffered and wasn't the best representation for our character.
I don't disagree with you there. I feel like this film struggles for a lot of things, going back to what we were talking about with Donner, right? Of the director and their influence on the movie. I'm just going to say it. Bryan Singer doesn't like comic books. And that's part of the problem. You see his X-Men movies, and it's like...
What do you think we were wearing? Yellow spandex? Yes!
Right.
You're wearing yellow spandex.
Yeah, like
Thank you, Matthew
pants.
Vaughn. Thank you, Matthew Vaughn, for the yellow spandex, by the way.
I know Kevin Feige, because Kevin Feige was a producer on those. I know he was so mad. He was going to his house mad that day. Like, man, I can't wait till I get the X-Men. I'm going to put Hugh Jackman in that outfit. No, but...
Well, the first
Bryan
time
Singer...
he grabbed Hugh Jackman, he gave him the outfit. Even though it wasn't a Deadpool movie.
No, not to get sidetracked, but I just want everybody to know the story that Bryan Singer banned comic books on the X-Men set, and Kevin Feige was smuggling them into Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry. I just have to tell that story. That is so funny to me.
Thank you, Kevin Feige.
Comic smuggling is crazy.
I know, right? But
there's got to be a cartoon of Feige just carrying the boxes like it's
seriously. But no, Bryan Singer notoriously doesn't like comic books, and so the fact that he's directed two of the biggest comics like projects of all time blows my mind. So I think that's why that was his in, though, right? It's like, hey, I don't have to figure out how to bring this to life. I'm just going to pull in this original franchise of movies, right? And again, I was 6 years old when this movie came out, so I don't have a great like knowledge on what it was culturally, but I do know Christopher Reeve passed away like 2 years before this movie came out. And I don't know if they were like, oh, we're going to honor him by harkening back to those movies instead of just full on rebooting. But I do know that it gives this movie an identity crisis. Yes, I used the word crisis because this is DC. Yeah, you guys picked up on that. But it gives him an identity crisis because Brandon Routh is good, but like he's trying to be someone he's not, right? And it's like he's trying to be Christopher Reeve. And that's so strange to me because we don't have Michael Keaton. We keep going to Batman. We don't have Michael Keaton being Adam West. You know, like you need to craft your own identity for the era that you're in, especially with movies like Spider-Man. True. Spider-Man came out, X2, directed by Bryan Singer, came out, and those were phenomenal films. And this one was stuck in the past. Mm-hmm. And this is where the nostalgia, one of the nostalgia things starts to creep up on you, where it's like, people were mad at the choices that this movie made, not because of the movie itself, but because of what it did to the Donner film's legacy. Like the relationship between Lois and Clark feels weird, but it feels even worse because it's like, how would you do that to Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve? Retroactively ruining someone's childhood is why I think so many people were like hateful against this film, even though at the end of the day, it's just kind of a mediocre movie. Like it's not terrible, but it's just kind of boring. But ultimately that identity crisis is why it's going to be like the one lost to time and forgotten, unfortunately, because Brandon Routh is amazing. And I'm glad, like you said, I'm glad he got to come back. I'm glad he got a new suit and he has his own character that will exist, you know, in our memories, but it's unfortunate.
I remember seeing this movie for the first time. I had no idea that it was a reference to Reeves' Superman from before. I just saw Superman. I was like, oh, cool. I'll go see this movie. You know,
that's how most people probably watched it. And I think that's also part of the problem.
Right.
And then they find out, wait a minute, this is like Donner, same thing, Superman 2, what? Like,
I think I watched this movie at like 11 years old. And the only reason I knew what was happening because my dad was like, I think this is a sequel, because he just remembered because he saw the movies when they came out. And so he's like, okay, we have to go back and rewatch these just so y'all can understand. And I'm like, this wasn't worth it. Half those movies sucked too, man. The Avengers were coming out at that time. I was young. I was stupid. Don't mind me.
And the sad thing is, it's also like a sequel that's out of time. You know, it's a drastic tonal shift from the previous 4 movies. It's visually a lot darker. Like the cinematography of it just feels more angry and desperate and like sad. You tell me Superman has been gone for 10 years at this point, and like you don't really explain why he disappeared as well, and then you bring it back and it's just like, oh, it's also like sandwiched in, as Mike mentioned, you know, Spider-Man had just come out, Spider-Man 2 was out, Batman Begins came out,
Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 2, it's like that's like the end-all be-all of that trilogy
of that era, right?
Yeah,
you know, we've had Ang Lee's Incredible Hulk before this, and then 2 years after this, you get Iron Man. It's just like, why would you ever do this to a character? You know, and don't get me wrong, I love Kingdom Come Superman. It's my favorite Superman costume, and I appreciate that we get some kind of payoff for Brandon Routh's version in the Arrowverse. But looking back and where this movie fits and where it took place, is just like, I'm under the impression that even Warner Brothers didn't even know what to do with this character back then.
I'd argue that they never have known what to do with this character since 1978.
Well, think about this also. If I believe this movie was actually the result of several failed attempts to bring the character back. Like there were almost like four different. Right? Yeah, there was like several different attempts. Cavill being part of one, it never came to fruition. So this not only had the economic baggage of all those failed attempts, it also had the baggage that it was self-acclaiming by trying to carry a legacy that wasn't meant to be theirs to begin with. And yeah, it's hard to watch, and it's funny that you make that point, Cliff, where you mentioned that it's sad. And it's true, it's a sad, heartbreaking film, but not what you want, kind of, because when you think about Superman, what do we say that we enjoyed? It put a smile in our faces. Like there was a fun element of being able to see our hero succeed. And not only that, like the payoff of him not being alone anymore because he understands that he has a son, that he's able to now pass down. Like the idea that this was going to be a plot device to be explored, that to me is exciting, but you did not set it up in a movie that's worth enjoying and remembering for you to be able to then pay that off. Because it's used as a flair for the film, not a turning point to really, like, yeah, it wasn't used to the proper effect.
It also makes you question, why should I care? Like, I haven't seen Superman on screen most of my life. Like, he was on VHS for the majority of my life. So why do you want me to then go pay money, or have my parents go pay money to see old Superman, essentially? It feels like I should have been watching The Death of Superman. That's how like sad this movie felt
Cliff
for me.
Is spitting.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're totally right. It's Superman is a character for all ages, but like, and I'm glad that we are starting to realize that comic books are for children. We can love them, don't get me wrong, but they are predominantly for kids. What was this movie? Because it's like, it's a sequel to a movie that came out. When did Quest for Peace come out? In like, what, 83? 85, something like that?
No, but it's even worse. Remember, it's not a sequel to Quest for Peace. It's a sequel to Richard Donner's Superman 2.
Yeah, I get that's even weird.
No, but I know.
Point being,
yeah,
the last of the Reeve films, 87. So we're 20 years removed. We're 20 years removed from that, and it's like, no kid is gonna get it. Don't get me wrong. I'll bring it for the next episode. I have like a 3-foot statue of Brandon Routh Superman at my parents' house. I'll make sure I bring it so you guys can see it for proof. But like, it just being Superman was.
He's trying to buy his Superman cred.
No, but my point is it being, because the fact that they bought that for me before the movie came out, because that's how much I love Superman. So it's like, it being Superman got kids interested, at least me. And then you get there and you're like, what is this, man? What, like, this film is so depressing and boring in so many aspects. And you can tell a sad Superman story. Like Cliff just said, Death of Superman, like the highest selling comic book of all time, right? You can do that. But the payoff doesn't work because this is not the same actor. It's retconning 2 of the movies, and it came out at least 20 years too late. So yeah, it's a series that's out of time. The safest way to travel, Brandon, you have down here in the show notes. I'd argue that all of that, like, if you actually think logically, this wasn't even a safe bet, because there's no way on paper this actually works. Like, I can see the concept of a sequel to the Reeves movies can make sense, but like, this does not work.
True. And it's crazy. Like, the things they should have been riskier on are the things that they made mistakes on. Like, the casting was bad, and like there's certain things that they tried to capture the magic of Superman, and again, they just surround him with not the right. So this just was a misstep, and it was sad because it put our character in a freezer for another 8 years, because it took another 8 years before we saw another Superman.
Yeah. This film, again, just kind of aided our generation's thoughts of Superman being boring. And I think that predominantly comes from this movie, where it's like, I was bored when I watched Superman when I was 6, and then Batman came out like the year before, and Spider-Man had a whole trilogy of movies. And that's why so many people are like, oh, Spider-Man and Batman are awesome, but Superman sucks, because of this pocket of time. And it's unfortunate. It also is why we overcorrect in the next film.
It was kind of crazy that this movie also kind of sits on nostalgia real quick. And when you look at like the Flintstones and like the Scooby-Doo movies that also came out from the early 2000s, it was just trying to like bank on nostalgia, but like it wasn't as successful as these other movies. So, but on to Mr. Cavill.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video on Superman Returns. Next week, we're going to be getting into Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, Henry Cavill's first flight as Superman. Man of Steel has so many great things going for it. It also makes a few crucial missteps that prevents it from becoming the quintessential Superman movie many may have hoped for. But that doesn't mean there's not a lot to love about that film. We get into all of that in the next video. So we'll be back next week talking Man of Steel. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like. Tell us what you think about Superman Returns in the comments down below. Did you love this movie? Did you hate this movie? Where does it fit in your Superman ranking? We would love to hear your thoughts on that. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Make sure you share this video with a pal, like Jimmy Olsen. Superman would totally send this to his best friend, Jimmy Olsen, right? Send this video to a friend who wants to discuss Superman Returns, a friend who's never seen Superman Returns, and they want to learn about the weird place it has in Superman history. So yeah, let us know your thoughts, and we'll see you guys next week.